Hello, welcome to today's edition or today's episode. My name is Edith. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be talking a little bit about mental health and physical health and how you can balance up the two at this really tough time. Yeah, I have really I had this topic a few weeks ago with a group of people, and it was a really nice one. A lot of people benefited from it. I was really amazed at the kind of reactions I got from people, and so I thought it would be nice to share with you all today, especially considering what's been going on in the world, and most of the challenges we've all had to go through, regardless of race, regardless of financial status, regardless of spiritual status. We have all gone through some really big problems, and we are trying to manage it and trying to figure out the best ways, to manage this situation. So I'm going to be talking about sustaining your physical and mental health at tough times. Exactly, the times that we are in today. How can you sustain your physical health and your mental health so you don't break down, so you can be alive to tell the story later, right? So I'm going to start a little bit with myself. um, I know this is a really troubling time for me, for you, and I know some of you are probably hearing this for the first time, but I was diagnosed with COVID, I think, in the first week of July, and I felt like my world was crumbling. My whole world was, broken down in pieces. I had no idea what to do. I was distraught. I was overwhelmed. I was everything you could imagine negative, right? Yeah, I was scared for my life because I had spent so much time, on the front line, well, working with patients. I was exposed to patients, and you just never know who has it and who doesn't, regardless of what the test says. So yeah, it was a really troubling time for me. I had to be on quarantine for about 3 weeks because my results kept showing positive, and I was really sick, very, very sick to my stomach. It was one period that I never expected in my entire life. It was a period that I have never been that sick before. I had never ever been that sick before. It was bad. I thought about myself. I thought about my son. I thought about everybody who meant, anything to me. I was scared for my life. I was scared for my finances. I was scared about, how life would be going forward. Is it possible that I would have some, some uh, you know this, like, health issues going forward. I was thinking the whole COVID thing was going to have some, subsequent or consequent impact on my health. So I was really worried, and the worst of all is being financially worried. Like, you're bothered because you're not going to work, and you have all these bills coming in. And I know for some of us, we might have lost a loved one. You may know somebody who knows somebody who has lost someone they really hold dear to heart at this time, and that makes it even more troubling. Some of you have lost your breadwinner. Some of you have lost, the people that you love the most. Some of you have lost your children. Some of you have lost your husbands or your wives. Some of you have lost your businesses. Some of you have lost your means of livelihood. Some of you have lost your homes. Some of you must have lost the things that mean everything in the world to you. Yeah. So, but how are you going to be able to manage through that? How are you going to be able to manage your health, so that you don't break down while undergoing this mental challenges? So we're in some really troubling times, and we all know. And now the kids are home. If you have kids, some of us are not used to having the kids at home 24/7. But hey, it is what it is. We're having to homeschool 5 kids. We're having to homeschool 4 kids, maybe more, or maybe less. We're having to, juggle between going to work and taking care of the family. We're juggling between manage, going forward. So yes, yeah, it's a really tough time for everyone. But hey, we're going to be going through some of the ways you can manage your physical health so that you don't break down. You don't break down alongside, some of the challenges that you're going through today. So how does mental health differ from physical health? The difference between mental health is not very much as is not as much as people think it is. Yeah, there's a very thin line between your mental health and your physical health. For years, a lot of researchers have been asking questions about mental health and physical health, and then they want to know how these two are interrelated. And of course, they found answers, but the answers are a little bit complicated. But of course, we do know that mental health affects our physical health and vice versa. So, what is mental health? According to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of well being, okay, where every individual realizes his or her own potential. So, you have to be able to, realize your potential. You have to be able to live to your full capacity. You have to be able to manage the stresses of your life. You have to be able to work productively and fruitfully and can contribute to your community. So, if you're not able to function properly, due to certain things that are happening in your life, then you might be having a compromised mental health. Then most people think of mental health as the absence of diagnosable disorders. Now, I want to correct that. Mental health is not necessarily the absence of bipolar disorder, the absence of schizophrenia, the absence of name it, okay? All the mental health issues that you might be thinking about. Mental health is the ability to maintain a balance between your physical activities and your mental life. Now, on the other hand, there are people who have been able to manage this appropriately. There are people like, there are some of us who, regardless of what the situation is, we keep pushing. We don't stop pushing until we drop dead, right? Yeah, but of course, there are other people who cannot do that. There are people who just break down at every little opposition. Some people break down at every little circumstance, and that's just who they are. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have a bad or poor mental health. Now, if someone fails to fall within the spectrum of being able to balance up their life activities versus the challenges, then that person might actually be said to have some mental health issues. Now, it is possible and even common for people to be somewhere in the middle and still do not have mental health problems. Now, if you don't have a diagnosed condition and you feel that you're able to function very well, then you might be just fine. But of course, there are some areas where, when you, as an individual, when you take a look at yourself and you feel like you're declining in some of the functions that you used to perform, then you might need to have your mental health reassessed. So if you begin to notice that there's a change in your sleeping pattern, like you don't feel like sleeping anymore, or you sleep too much, and then you feel like you're withdrawing from friends. I know the times are really hard. Like, we have to social distance regardless. Like, it's not optional. You have to social distance. So this is a time when it's okay to withdraw. But of course, you know that there's a difference between, deliberately withdrawing and just withdrawing because you don't feel like hanging around people. Now, when you begin to notice a loss of energy, increasing mood swings and irritability, like every little thing gets you so upset, and then you realize that you begin your performance at work, at school, in the home front, with your spouse, with your kids, everything begins to slow down, then you might need to take a break, okay? You might need to take a break and access your mental health. Now, what is physical health? Physical health has two components. It is nutrition and exercise. Now, what you eat is who you are. Or let me put it this way, you are what you eat. So sometimes we find out that, we are not taking in as much as we need. Our nutrition is not at its peak. We're not doing a good job nutrition wise. And hey, the times are hard right now. The markets are closed. People have lost their jobs. So you don't want to be too hard on yourself if you're not eating fine. But hey, you want to also make conscious efforts to at least get some good nutrition, because that will really help your mental health. Now, a host of vitamins and minerals from fruits, vegetables. I mean, and some of these things don't really cost that much, right? So if you can get yourself some fruits, vegetables, drink a lot of water, and eat a lot of nuts, stay away from the red meats and all that stuff, you might be helping yourself a lot more. Now I'll talk about activities. We know about exercise. I tried today. I started up exercising again after being on quarantine for almost a month. Yeah, I tried to exercise today. I just walked around the block for like 15 minutes. I was tired, exhausted. Yeah, but I know I'll get better. So if you can exercise, it doesn't matter how much of exercise you do, but it's recommended that you do at least 30 minutes a day for 5 days in a week, and that should be enough to help you boost your physical health and your mental health. Now, I'll talk a little bit about depression. Depression is one area that has hit a lot of us. A lot of people are depressed. I hate to use that word, but it is what it is. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. Now, this has affected 121 over 121 million people all over the world, and this is according to the World Health Organization. Now, this is an old study, okay? Imagine what it is, what the numbers are today, with everything that we've all had to go through since January up until today. The numbers are definitely on the increase, and we have to take control. We have to take charge of our lives and fight this, well, I call it a monster called depression. Now, in the US alone, over 14.8 million people, 14.8 million adults have depression. So that's a lot of people. Depression is the leading cause of disability in Americans between 15 and 44 years old. And currently, the World Health Organization has determined that depression is ranked the fourth on the global burden of disease list. So depression is the fourth. Now think about, we have stuff like cancer, cardiovascular problems, we have things like respiratory problems, and all of that. Now imagine having depression, as an individual. So you want to be in charge. You want to take charge of your life and take charge of the things that happen to you. The rate of depression continues to increase, and the WHO predicts that it will be the second most common global burden by 2020. This was in 2008. Okay, now I want to believe that they didn't know that by 2020 we're all going to be on lockdown, afraid for our lives, afraid to, go outside the house. We're going to be losing our jobs, losing our houses. Now you can imagine what the number will be today. So this is very costly again to manage, because the mental health industry, or going to the doctor's office and all of that, managing depression can be quite expensive. Now, a recent study on immune inflammation and depression involved the manipulation of receptors in individuals. So research has shown that stress causes your brain to release some hormones. Now, cytokines are a type of proteins that are associated with inflammation. So this release can cause a lot of damage in the medial prefrontal. So I'm not going to really go into all of that pathophysiology, but I want you to know that stress really affects your immune system. So if you're stressed out all the time, I know it's almost impossible to I'm sorry, let me respond. Mom, you need to change the Wi-Fi upstairs. Okay, that was for my mom, Ngozi Declan. Okay, so yeah, we are in some really tough times, and it's almost impossible to say, I wouldn't be stressed out about it. Yes, you're going to be stressed out. Yes, you're bothered about that. You're bothered about the fact that business is not going on as usual. You're bothered about the fact that you're stuck in the house. You have no idea what's going on outside. You're bothered about the fact that you're afraid of contacting a virus that you don't even understand how it is spread, how it is controlled, how it is treated. You're stressed about the fact that, your life may not return to what it used to be. You're stressed about the fact that everything around you is not working right. Now, this is what it is today. But of course, we have the responsibility of managing the stress and not allowing it, because the more you allow the stress into your life, the more your immune system begins to decline in the functions, and you expose yourself to all forms of infections. Now, research, I already talked about that. A strong immune system is a hallmark for physical health. So, but the addition of stress can increase the chances of depression. The more stressed out you are, the more physically stressed out, the more your job stresses you out, the more COVID-19 stresses you out, the more the financial situation of the world stresses you out, the more your family stresses you out, the more the kids stresses you out, the more your job stresses you out, the more likely you are to be depressed. Now, in turn, depression can further weaken your immune system. Now, we're having to go through a whole lot of stuff. We don't want to be, we don't want to be coming out of COVID and coming into cancer. We don't want to be coming out of COVID and coming into some mental health illness. Okay, that is why we are actually having this today. And I'm hoping that, for those of you watching right now, you feel free to post your questions. Feel free to post your comments. I will be reading through them. I'm not in a hurry today. This is not like my regular 15-minute kind of presentation. So if you have any questions, if you can post it over here, and if you can't, you can send me a message inbox, and I will definitely address them before the end of the program. Now, so how does mental illness affect your physical health? Now, we already talked about depression. We have anxiety. Honestly, I was really anxious for the first few days when I started having the fevers, the body aches. I could barely get out of bed, and I was achy. I was sick. I was really sick, and I was really anxious because I was afraid of losing my life. I was afraid. Every single time I flip the channels of the news, everything I see is people dying of COVID, and then I remember when I eventually did my test and it was positive. My doctor called me right away and said, "Hey Edith, you tested positive, and what symptoms do you feel?" And I was too tired. I couldn't even talk. I just had no idea. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going on, and the more she kept telling me about the disease or the virus and the symptoms and what to expect and when to go to the emergency room, I started feeling sicker. Like, I started having shortness of breath because I got anxious. I was panicky. I was scared. My respiratory muscles began to tighten up, and really I was beginning to have even worse symptoms. So anxiety can also cause a very huge impact on your physical health. The more anxious you are, the more there is a decline in your physical health. So it is very important that you take control of your feelings, take control of how the things that happen around you affect you, and how to actually manage these things so that we can all come out of this and be able to tell the story just like I'm telling you today. All right, so we're going to also try to understand that mental health is very well related to fatigue, which is tiredness, and that persistent tiredness can easily lead to decline in physical health. So if you're tired all the time, you don't feel like getting up in the morning after sleeping for 10 hours, you're still tired. It's not something to be ashamed or afraid to say. It's something that you really want to begin to understand that you might actually be needing help. Now, when someone is chronically depressed or anxious, they are less likely to engage in any form of exercise or healthy eating, or even try to live a healthy life. When people are tired and depressed, you find out that some people actually start eating. They eat like, they try to eat as a means of managing their worries. I don't know how that works, but yeah, a lot of people have actually told me that they find themselves eating more when they're tired, or when they're depressed or anxious or worried about something. Now, fatigue from mental illness can also affect your basic hygiene, and it increases your vulnerability to diseases and infections. Now, I'll talk a little bit about anger, but not a lot. Anger, studies from Asia, from Australia, have shown that anger can act as a trigger for heart attack. So the more angry you get, the more your vessels constrict, and the more, if you don't have a competent blood vessel, there is a likely tendency that the individual is going to have a heart attack. Okay, so what can you do to improve your mental health at this time? Now, first of all, you have to acknowledge the situation. The first key to managing the situation is acknowledging it. You have to acknowledge it. Yes, everything is screwed up. We're in some very difficult times. We're in some very hard times. But hey, what are we going to do? Now, you do not want to, first of all, start blaming yourself for anything. It is not your fault. It is not your fault that you lost your job. It is not your fault that you lost your home. It is not your fault that you cannot pay your children's school fees. It is not your fault that you cannot put 3 square meals on the table like you used to. It is not your fault that someone you know is in need and you cannot help them. Now, the situation is here with us and we just have to acknowledge it. Everything is screwed up. What can we do? The second thing you want to do is begin to see yourself as a primary or a key player in the whole balancing situation. If you've got to have your life balanced, you have to be responsible for it. Now, you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself or nobody else will. If you want to take care of other people, if you want to be able to provide, if you want to be able to go back to your life like it was before COVID, you need to be there, right? You need to be well, you need to be healthy, you need to be able to manage yourself. You need to care for yourself. So if you've not been exercising, this is time for you to go and exercise. If you've not been, if you've not been taking good care of yourself, this is a time for you to do that. If you've not been taking deep breaths and, making plans, this is really the time for you to do that. You have all the time in your hand right now. Now, self-care is any action you take with the intention of preserving or improving your current mental state or your mental health overall. Self-care activities serve two central purposes. It sets healthy boundaries and develops the ability to cope with life's ups and downs. So when you care for yourself, you find out that you're able to, to place boundaries, right? You don't want to sleep past 10 o'clock at night. You don't want to sleep after 9 p.m. You want to try to go to bed at 9 o'clock so that by 6 in the morning you already had about 9 hours of sleep. That is self-care. You want to be able to set boundaries. Oh, I cannot eat a lot of cheese. I don't want to eat a lot of red meat. You're caring for yourself. You're setting boundaries that are actually going to help your health. Now, it also helps you to cope with life's ups and downs. So the more you take care of yourself, the more you exercise, the more you appreciate yourself, then the more likely you are going to be able to manage the life ups and downs that are thrown at you. Now, first of all, how do we achieve self-care? The first thing you want to do, like I said earlier, you want to set a very, very strict sleep schedule. I know the older we get, the more we worry. Personally, I don't even have a sleep schedule. I just sleep whenever I'm home, and I just 24/7. I kind of run a 24/7 schedule, but anytime I get a chance to sleep, I do not take that for granted. So if you have the chance to sleep, please try as much as possible to get enough sleep. There's been some studies from Harvard that individuals who do not sleep are 4 times as likely to develop depression. Now, conversely, more than 50% of people with anxiety and up to 90% of people with depression experience sleep disturbances at some point. Creating a sleep schedule and a routine is an effective step towards improving your mental health and for yourself, for your children, for your entire family. Developing a sleep routine can be as simple as setting a concrete bedtime. Like I said, you want to limit screen time at night, and then if you can have a glass of warm milk if you're having a hard time going to sleep, or you can just turn the lights out and just remain in a very quiet environment. Now, another thing you want to do for self-care is going outside. Try to go outside. There's been a study that linked vitamin D from the sun with treatment of depression and certain mental health illnesses. So the more vitamin D you get from the sun, the more likely you're able to come out happy, and you radiate, and it kind of works. And I mean, the studies have not been concluded, but I can tell you that I have actually tried that a few times when I was sick and in quarantine, or quarantine. When I was sick and in my room and I couldn't go out, I felt like someone who was in a jailhouse for 3 weeks. Honestly, that was not a joke. What I would do is open the windows. My windows are kind of outside, so I'll open the windows and just sit in the sun for a little bit, and that kind of made me feel better. Now, making outside time helps increase your mental health or improve your mental health. And like I said, vitamin D, from the sun. Try to also engage in outdoor activities. If you're so used to being inside the house, maybe with the AC on 24/7 or whatever, that might not really help. Sometimes going outside improves your mood. So you want to go outside, you want to go, engage yourself in some outdoor activities, bicycle riding, you want to go take a walk, you want to go just, do something outside. Now, working with your hand has been tested to reduce depression and improve your mental health. Half of your brain's cortex is dedicated to the hands, so most of your brain is kind of linked to your hands. So the more you use your hands, the more you give your brain a very good workout. I didn't know that. I'm gonna try. So you don't need to take up a mechanical engineering. You don't need to be a carpenter. You don't need to be a bricklayer or something. You can just go out there and build some castles, with the mud or whatever. I'm just kidding. But whatever makes you happy, whatever you derive pleasure from, you can go do some yard work. You can go do some, mow the lawn or whatever, and that's actually gonna help. So I already talked about bicycle riding, taking a walk. A clear distinction is made between poor physical health and a poor mental health. Now, similarly, a poor mental health, like I said earlier, will definitely impact your physical health. It can predispose you or expose you to a lot of illnesses, viral infections, especially because your immune systems are so weak. Now, you want to be healthy. You want to be there for yourself. You want to be there for the people that love you. You want to be there for the people that care about you. So if you have to do that, you have to take care of your mental health, and do not allow whatever is going on around you to cause any kind of imbalance. Now, you can choose to organize yourself. You can choose to, accept certain things and discard the things that you don't want to bother you, because yes, you're in control of your life. Okay. So what do you do when you have someone who is mentally challenged, or if you are mentally challenged, what do you do? There are tons of help out there. There's a National Institute for Mental Health. The World Health Organization also has some links that will be very beneficial if you are going through any kind of mental health. I know we probably all are, fear, depression, anxiety, worries. And then some of us have actually become even physically sick from the mental challenges that we've had to go through during this period. So but what do? Seek help. Do not hang around people who make you feel worse. Okay, if possible, you need to change your circle. You need to change the group of people that you relate with. You want those who are going to make you feel the best about yourself. You want to be around people who are going to make you feel great about yourself. It's bad enough. You don't want to hang around people who are going to make you feel bad, or people who are going to make you feel worse. So first of all, if you have someone who is around you who has any kind of mental health issue, depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, whatever, you want to treat the person with respect and dignity. Okay, you don't want to talk to them like disregard them or disrespect them. You want to make sure that you listen when they talk to you. I saw a post somewhere where a friend of mine said she would rather listen to your crap than be at your funeral. So if possible, if you have anyone who is going through any of these challenges, you want to listen. Try to be a listening ear. I know it's hard right now to even help out. When I was sick and really sick, I had a couple call me, and they were actually having a hard time. They were almost thrown out of their home, and I mean, I hadn't worked for almost a month, and I wasn't sure how my next income was gonna, how I was gonna make my next income. But hey, I was able to just, get something out of nothing and try to help them. So yeah, and if you're the type of person who loves to help people and that not helping people makes you sick, please don't be sick. Just listen. Give them a listening ear. Encourage them. Say a prayer with them and reassure them that everything is gonna be well, if only they can preserve themselves enough to wait for the end of this. Now, offer consistent emotional support and understanding. As much as you can. If you don't have any good thing to say, please don't say anything. Don't try to make a bad situation worse. In difficult times, we all need additional love and understanding. We all need to be empathetic. We all need to be compassionate. We all need to be very patient. So if you don't have any of these virtues, it's time for you to learn them. And if you don't have them to give, please don't give anything less. Have realistic expectations. Our world crumbled but gradually we're going to rise again. Everything is going to be better. It's not going to happen overnight, but hey, it is going to happen if we remain in the right spirit. Now, give hope, provide practical help. Try to, if you have any mental health practitioner who is around, you can refer them. Do not go to someone who is not a licensed mental health practitioner. Not, I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but your pastor, your parents, your friends are not mental health specialists. So if you're beginning to feel really overwhelmed, if you're beginning to get to a point where you feel like you need a lot of help, like you're losing it, you need to seek help. Don't sit at home. Don't wait until you curse yourself any damage or any harm, and there will be no way out of it. Offer information just like I'm doing. We have a lot of resources. You can Google, places for mental health care or help for mental health people, and you should be able to find one or two ways to, get help. Now, try as much as you can to sleep, whatever the case may be. Try to sleep, try to eat right, eat some good food, exercise as much as you can. Interact with the ones that you love. Find a way to build new relationships. And hey, always find a good situation from a bad situation. So while I was in quarantine, I was able to start up a business because I couldn't even, there was nothing else I was doing in the room. I was in my room all by myself. I wasn't going to school, I wasn't going to work. I mean, I couldn't see my son. I mean, I remember one day he came to me and said, oh, he came through the window. I mean, yeah, through the window. And he said, Mom, for how long are you going to be in quarantine? I said, I don't know. And he said, I miss you, Mom. I just want to give you a hug. And honestly, at that point, I started, I mean, I teared up. I just didn't know what to do. My heart broke, but hey, I didn't want anything to weigh me down. I didn't want anything to, I wasn't going to be defined by the situation. I chose my recovery process, and yes, I was able to, I had internet access in my room, so I was able to design websites. I was able to design, business proposals. I was able to register. I was able to do a whole lot of things. So yes, in the midst of that bad situation, there can always be something good. You are capable of doing something good from that bad situation. So finally, some strategies for a balanced mental and physical health. Like I said, get help, read books, do whatever you like to do, play music, dance. Don't eat, like, don't eat, and then after the whole situation, you're trying to lose the weight. So eat healthy, cut the carbs, eat more vegetables, drink a lot of water, eat a lot of fruits. Make sure if you have anybody who around you is suicidal or talks about ending their life, you need to get them to seek the nearest help they can get. Like I said, listen non-judgmentally, reassure yourself, and then encourage appropriate professional help. Don't just go to anybody who is going to tell you, oh, don't worry, whatever you're feeling, everybody feels the same way. No, you need someone who understands and who can relate with what you're going through. Now, finally, don't tell someone to snap out of it. If someone comes to you and tries to explain their predicament or tries to explain the challenges to you, please, please, please don't try to minimize it, because a lot of people have minimized other people's concerns, and at the end of the day, they hear that those people committed suicide or hurt themselves or did something to themselves. So try to listen. Don't dismiss people. Now, do not try to be over involved or overprotective. Do as much as you can and give them some space. Okay, do what you can and give them some space. Some people really do not want to be over bothered. Okay, don't use the word. Don't try to use a patronizing voice or facial expression. Don't be surprised. Don't be shocked if they tell you they haven't paid their rent in the last 1 month or they haven't had breakfast in the last 3 days. Don't try to be like, oh my God, that's hard. Not be positive at that point in time. Please don't say anything. Now, do not ignore, disagree with, or dismiss the person's feelings by attempting to say positive, something positive, like maybe you don't seem that bad, or you say you haven't eaten in 3 days. You don't look it. You look great. Don't say that. If someone comes to you and tries to get you to listen to their worries, please acknowledge it. Please encourage them. love them, be empathetic. Try to be compassionate. Don't try to make them feel worse, because we are already in some really bad times. Conclusively, we must come to acknowledge the situation, and that we are not perfect. Okay, we are in an imperfect world, and this is just an example of an imperfect world. Things have gone down south, and we're not perfect either. Things have also probably gone down south with us, and we own ourselves the responsibilities of maintaining a balance. It is very important to try and strike the balance between giving yourself enough space, give yourself enough time to heal, regardless of the emotions coming up. You probably must have lost a loved one, you probably must have lost a job, you probably must have lost, your home or something. Give yourself time, give yourself some space to heal, give yourself some room to balance up, and then remain productive regardless of the situation. You have your brain, you have your head intact, you have your heart. You can still remain productive regardless of what's going on. Now, so while it's important to acknowledge and validate the pain that you are going through, it is also important to continue to do what you would normally do to be productive. Just like I said, I was in quarantine. A lot of people didn't even know, but I was in my room. I know a few of the presentations that I did for like 3 Sundays. I did those from my room. I would take some energy drink just to be able to sit up and talk to you all. I was just completely out of it, But hey, because I love to do those I gained a lot of strength. I gained a lot of healing from speaking to people about managing their health. So, regardless of what you're going through, try to find something that makes you happy. Try to find something that you love to do. And then always remember that this too shall pass. This is not going to be with us forever. This is a phase that we are going through, and we owe ourselves the responsibilities of managing ourselves through this phase. And this too shall pass. You have to be healthy, you have to be alive to tell the story. And then finally, take good care of yourself. Take good care of yourself. If you don't take good care of yourself, nobody else will, and you are not going to be there to take care of other people that you are worrying about. So take good care of yourself, and we shall all tell the story about COVID-19 and the stress that it put us through and how we overcame. Thank you all so much for watching. It has been my pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, have a blessed week. Remain blessed, be positive, and most importantly, take care of yourself. Bye bye.